Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening. Your saltwater guide, Captain Dave Hansen, with a unbelievable podcast for you today. You're going to want to buckle in here, sit down, relax. We have one of my best friends on the planet Earth joining us today. We got the man, Michael Fowlkes, former producer of Inside Sport Fishing, and now the producer, director, narrator of one of the most spectacular 12-part docuseries I have ever been a part of or ever even seen. All about what I do for a living my whole life, the history of sport fishing. It doesn't get any more intimate for me than the history of sport fishing. My whole life, my family's whole life has come from sport fishing. So I'm super excited and very, very honored that Michael's going to be on the show with me today. First, though, we got to touch on a little bit of business, gang. Deckhand Sports. Make sure that this show goes off every Friday. If it wasn't for Dave and his guys over there at Deckhand Sports, there'd be no Friday show. So thank you very much, Dave, for everything you do. A little later in the show, we'll show you a cool little video about the product and let you guys check it out on your own. It's almost in every tackle store now. Deckhand Sports products are taken over the United States of America. He had a great time at ICAST. I know even Glenn Hughes noticed the bags and talked about them on our podcast last week. So he's making a big impact on the industry. I know Michael Fowlkes will be excited to see the video on how awesome these kill bags are, but we could talk about that all day, but I don't want to waste any time. Let's get Michael in here. Let's get this show started, Elliot. Hey, buddy. Welcome.
Hello, David.
I am super excited to have you here, bud. It's just like hanging out in your garage. Look at all that stuff behind you.
It's a mess.
It's an incredible amount of stuff. Whenever I go into your garage, Mike, I just can't even, I'm just mesmerized by just certain things. And I could stand and stare at them for hours, just one object, because I know the history behind it. And now so many people, because of what you've put together, are going to learn about our industry. It's incredible what you've done. Kelly and I had to watch part one again last night for a second time. And I'll tell you what, that first couple of minutes, it wrecks me every time. And it'll wreck me right now when Elliot shows it. It's incredible.
Well, let's play it, Elliot. You want to?
Yeah, I think you should. I think it's pretty crazy. It's a pretty incredible thing that you've done, what you've done, and taken all this footage of all these old movies and spliced them together with your velvety voice and explained to everybody. It's absolutely insane. Do you have that available for us, Elliot? I don't know.
Maybe.
He's trying. He's working.
There it goes.
I remember the very first time I went fishing. I was 3 years old. I remember it like it was yesterday. I didn't know what my dad did. I just know he left for work every day. And when he came home at night, he was covered in salt and scales, fish scales. And I didn't even know what a fish scale was, but he would tell me what they were. They were all over his shirt, his pants, his belt. I remember chewing on his belt when I was a baby because it had salt on it. And it felt good in my mouth when I was teething. I swear, I remember all this like it was yesterday. I know it's hard to think that you remember this stuff when you're a little kid, but I do. 3 years old, sitting on the counter. We're going on the afternoon trip with my dad. And my mom putting my shoes on while I'm sitting on the counter telling me we're going fishing with my dad. He was running the Some Fun off the pier, and the boat was tying up to the pier, and I was sitting on the rail with my mom holding me. And she's saying, "That's your dad." And him coming out on the back of the boat and him waving at me and saying, "Hi, David." Oh, I had no idea this was going to hit me this hard. But yeah, I'm 60 years old and I remember it like it was right now. And then we went to go down the ramp and get on the boat. It was incredible, and that was it. I knew what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I wanted to fish.
first fish for sport is purely speculative, but certainly predates any written history.
You wrecked me again. You got me. Oh, sorry. All right, gang. Well, there you go. That's how we're starting the show today. Woo! That is pretty incredible. That is, if that doesn't get you, if that doesn't make you understand what fishing means to me and Michael, then I don't know how else we can put it together for you, gang. This is one of the most incredible docuseries. The amount of time you spent day in and day out for the last 10 years, most people would fall apart. You did it, and you put together one hell of a docuseries, Michael. I'm so excited to watch this thing.
Thank you, David. I really appreciate it. It's been like we talked about from the get-go, it's been a labor of love. Absolutely an honor. It's been an honor for me to have been given the privilege of even trying to attempt to do something like this. And then once I committed to doing it, the amount of support that's come out of the industry, and from individuals and from clubs and from organizations and from companies, it's overwhelmed me. We talked about this. I started the idea out as being the Endless Summer meets Ken Burns and doing a 60-minute movie on the birth of big game fishing. I thought that was going to be really cool. You know, the first tuna, first marlin, first swordfish ever captured on a rod and reel were taken off Catalina. So I said, what a great story. So I started off with that idea, that premise. And the next thing I know, we're just the IGFA, the American Sport Fishing Association, Glenn Hughes, Trout Unlimited, Bonefish Tarpon and Trust, the Tuna Club, the San Diego Yacht Club. I mean, Fishing Club. I mean, just everybody that heard what we were doing was getting in touch with me and saying, what can we do to help? And I said, well, does anybody have any money? And they go, no. But they, without the sponsorship money, it's basically been produced by family and friends, which I couldn't have done it without it. But without the support of the people you're seeing up here on the screen right now, and people just like you, David, that have believed in this from the get-go, from the concept. Click on, if you go to the Saltwater Guide and you click on it, it'll take you right to Dave's site or to any of these other sites. So anyway, the story organically evolved from what was going to be a 60-minute film into a 12-hour documentary series, which covers the entire sport from its concept, the first known drawing of a reel, 300 BC, in the Chinese dynasty, 300. It's just, I don't know. It's overwhelming, and it's been a challenge, and I truly feel like it's a gift to the sport.
Yeah, it absolutely is a gift to the sport. Like our good friend Bill DePriest just said, this is something that's needed to be done. It had to be done, and nobody could do it the way you do it, Michael. The way you tell the story. It's just like when I go back to your book that you wrote, when you're reading your book, the way you put together the stories, just like my dad used to say all the time, you made sport fishing so relevant with Inside Sport Fishing and being on Fox Sport West. We all look forward to it. My dad could not give you enough accolades. He was so happy that you were there because he used to tell me about the fishing shows he used to watch with his dad back in the 50s when the TV first came out. And then you and I talked, and you were telling me you were working with Dan Hernandez back in the old days. You've been part of this thing for a very, very long time. You've been putting together phenomenal fishing stories. You know what you're doing. Nobody could do this better, Mike. So thank you for doing this for me and my family. I feel like you did this for us. And I know so many other people that are going to watch this are going to feel the exact same way.
Man, you're getting me all choked up.
But gang, I can't shortchange this. I can't talk about it enough. This is one of the most incredible videos I've ever seen that kind of just goes along and kind of tells you about our life. Basically, Michael and I's life. You're watching it unfold here in front of you. And then he brings in the biggest names on the East Coast, the biggest names in Texas. You have everybody's on this movie. It's incredible.
Well, it's like I said, it's evolved organically from within itself. I just feel like all I've been is those hourglasses that used to keep sand, the sand goes through. It's like when you're on the water, what's above the water is what's down below the water. It's the same principle. If the birds are working and they're funneled, then there's fish funneled up on the bait. So I feel like this project, once I opened up the funnel, the stuff just poured into it from the universe, if you will. I'm getting a little cosmic here, but it just, materials like this just came to us, and people just said, what can we do to help? And we talked to Flip Pallett, a legendary skipper on the East Coast. I mean, Florida, he's the Frank Lopresti, if you will, of the East Coast. He said, anything I have, anything I've done, anything that you can get your hands on from me, let me know. You're more than welcome to use it. So everybody has just contributed from their hearts and souls to help make this film possible. And it truly is a tribute to the entire sport and how it evolved from back in the day when it was an act of survival. I mean, people fished to survive. You had to eat. And so hunting, fishing, farming, those are basic fundamental skills back 200 years ago. And then somewhere along that, in the late 1800s, people started thinking, oh, maybe we could do this for fun. And it kind of evolved from an act of survival into the sport that it is today. And we carry it all the way through from those earliest moments to the, from the first reels in Kentucky to, to Boshin coming up with the Star Drag and George Farnsworth and the guys from the Tuna Club going out and trying to catch big tunas on equipment that didn't even have drag systems and linen line and wooden rod. So interesting thing too, that I worked with a phenomenal editor up in Los Angeles that was a graduate of documentary filmmaking, and she'd been in the business for years. And she and I would butt heads on this thing because she goes, that's not a documentary format. You can't cut modern footage into an old movie and make any sense out of it. And I said, absolutely, we can. Yeah. So, the goal was to keep people, keep it entertaining while educating and informing, and most importantly, helping to protect the future of our sport.
That is the key right there. And then the message, all your video, all this shows kids going fishing, shows us when we were young, shows a lot of people in the industry when they were young. It's
it's Johnny Klein.
Is about taking kids fishing. You can change their lives, gang. That's, if you get deep down into this, gang, you're going to go and you're going to go, wow, it is super important. When Dave Hansen's sitting there crying in the beginning of the thing, because I remember my dad taking me fishing when I was 3 years old. That's what I'm trying to tell everybody. It matters so much to get this message across, because you, like that car we just saw,
yep,
when the guy stopped and the trout fell out. We've all done that. We've all done everything we can to get to that spot where we can, yep, get that bite. You cover it so eloquently. It's incredible. Go ahead.
I just, I so appreciate your kind words, Dave. I've been pretty much locked up in this studio for 4 years, and I really haven't had a lot of interaction outside of the work. And I'm, it's you're editing down to a micro of a frame. There's 24 frames in a second. I'm so you're talking 24 fractions of a second, and every one of those seconds has to be put together, and to compile all that into 12 hours was an overwhelming task. And my connection to the outside world has been so limited. Christmases and birthdays and holidays have just come and gone without me participating at all. And my wife, bless her heart, has just been so gracious and allowing me to do what I had to do to get in here and make this happen. So, and there's been so many people, Tammy Edwards-Hans, Dr. Terry Battisti. Tammy called me 4 years ago. She saw an ad somewhere, or she saw the website and said, hey, my dad worked for the Miami Herald for years, and I have boxes and boxes of old photographs that he took that no one's ever seen. And so we started talking, and the next thing I know, we're collaborating on this thing. And she's just been a wealth of information, and her research is so far beyond my capabilities. And together, I think we've made a really good team and a really good balance between being able to provide true documentary. There she is, the true documentary, and there's Terry as well. To be able to combine the information that we needed, that I felt like needed to be put out there, and in in the history of the sport, combined with the emotion. And that's what we tried to do on this, is combine, the thrill, the excitement, the passion, the memories of fishing with the background of what the history is really all about. And I think we've done a really good job blending modern, contemporary 4K, gut-wrenching, exciting action with, there we go. Woo! Elliot's right front and center with his beautiful bride. So anyway, we've got some great music. We've got Luke Bryan singing a couple of songs that just bring tears to my eyes. We've got the Chantels singing Pipeline. Look at some of that music we've been able to get. And again, this music, I mean, Luke Bryan, come on, he's one of the largest country music stars in the world today. And he loves fishing. So the fact that he loves fishing, he said, yeah, let's work with this on this. So we were able to license a tremendous volume of music. Viva Las Vegas, This Is the Sea. I mean, there's some music in here that every time I hear it, it either gets me totally pumped up or it brings tears to my eyes.
Oh, absolutely. It does bring tears to your eyes, gang. But there's people asking questions. Yeah, Farnsworth, that's where they named the Farnsworth Bank after him. If you guys watch this movie, you're going to learn so much about the industry that you all love. You're going to get to learn about why things are called what they're called. You're going to get to learn about why things are done the way they're done. There's so much stuff that I didn't know about as I watch, and I just go, wow, this is so much fun. And then you being a member of the Tuna Club, you connect that back to this docuseries, which was a huge part of this, is because the Tuna Club, most people don't understand, that's where that big bluefin came into play, and the fact that they couldn't catch a fish over 100 pounds. And the way you tell the story, Michael, you had me on the edge of my seat. I had to watch it twice just to make sure I understood everything that was going on.
I'm hoping that you get done watching 12 hours and you go, man, I got to watch that again. I missed half of it. So I think we've kept the pace up. I think it's just a phenomenal, like I said, I may be on crack because I've been on no sun exposure, for years, but I'm very proud of this. I'm honored to have been able to be a part of it and help make it happen. And it's truly a gift to all of us from all of us. And it's something I think our children and children generations in the future are going to want to watch and see this and look at where fishing is today as opposed to how it was 200 years ago or even 100 years ago, and where it's going to be 100 years from now.
Right. And you go through it, you chronicleize this so beautiful, the way you put it together to teach us about what they did to create the reel that could catch the fish over 100 pounds and how that it evolved and where it came from. And a lot of people, you just run down to the store, you grab a rod and reel, you go out fishing, and you don't understand. This brings it all. There's something in this for every single person to watch. And the way you put it together, it's even entertaining for the children. The kids are going to get a lot out of this too. And the thing about you work so cleanly, gang. There's never going to, like when you listen to my podcast, you don't have to worry. Your children, you can enjoy this movie with your children. It's like when Michael and I grew up and we all watched after dinner on Sunday nights, we watched The Wonderful World of Disney. That's what this reminds me of.
Yep.
That's what it reminds me of. Not only are you entertaining us, but we're all learning at the same time without even knowing we're learning.
My whole philosophy has been entertain first, educate secondly. So I think as long as I'm being entertained, I'm learning. And so what we've tried to do with this video is make it visually a joy to watch, a pleasure to be a part of. And while you're watching it, you're learning a lot of stuff that you never even knew existed. So thanks, David.
Well, it's totally true. And gang, if you want to get the movie, we're going to talk about it for the whole show today. We're talking about this docuseries, but there's the QR code up on the screen right now. You can go online to History of Sport Fishing. You can grab it yourself. You can purchase it yourself, or you can grab that QR code that Elliot's throwing up on the screen there. Scan it with your phone. It'll take you directly to episode 1, and they're going to be released. They're time released, so you're not going to get them all at the same time.
You get all 12, David. You get all 12 on this HOSF 12 chapter bundle. You get all 12 hours on that membership bundle, and then on the VIP bundle, we're releasing 2 feature films from the Inside Sport Fishing archives every month. So we're going to start with a tribute to tuna, and I think Jig Chucker's Ball are the 2 videos that are going to be released under the bonus package. So every month we're going to release 2 new videos for the premium package, and then we'll also be doing like your full interview, unedited, rather than just the cuts that we made to make the film. But the entire Dave Hansen interview will be available. The entire Frank Lopresti interview will be available. So any of the interviews that we've done, and some of the backseat, the outtakes and some of the outtakes will all be available too. So we're going to continue to add to this, but your base package is the 12 hours. And if you just want to buy a chapter, you can buy a chapter for $9, $10. But I think this 12 package deal, or even the VIP package, is going to be pretty phenomenal. It's going to give a lot, and it's all family friendly. It's family viewing. We feature women throughout the series. The evolution of women into the sport continues to grow. We've got great clips like Kurt Gowdy. Watch this. This is just amazing. This is Terry Bradshaw's first time.
Terry didn't make much of an impression on the tarpon.
Never cast for a tarpon before, huh?
Never been tarpon.
You're in a thrill. The hook one of the greatest game fish in the world, huh? Here comes some over here. Nice school.
Terry Bradshaw.
Get him. Get their attention. He's coming. You got it. You got it. There you go. There you go. That's the way to go, baby.
Oops.
This is the History of Sport Fishing. Chapter 8. Fly fishing explodes in salt waters.
Yeah.
That is so great.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. That's Ted Williams and Charlie Ebbets. They were best friends. So, and that's Tammy and her family with her dad up there. He's a photographer, and that's Tammy right here. So it's just amazing footage, amazing photographs. A lot of these pictures had never been seen before. A lot of this footage has never been seen before. So it's a really comprehensive look at the sport that we all love and treasure. So it covers all aspects, Dave. We start on the West Coast, and interestingly enough, being a member of the Tuna Club, I always thought the Tuna Club was the oldest fishing club in the world. I thought, hey, we're it. No, not close. This is really interesting. Back in the 1700s, the Schuylkill, SKU, the Schuylkill Fishing Club was formed outside of Philadelphia by the guys that wrote the Declaration of Independence. So our founding fathers, Benjamin Franklin, those guys, they all fished. And at the time, we were under British rule. And if any talk about a revolution would have been hung. So they formed this fishing club. They called it the Castle. And that's where these guys hung out and wrote the Declaration of Independence and our Constitution. So the Schuylkill Fishing Club was the first, and it's the longest, and it's continually operated club in the world today. And their records are there it is right there. That's the Schuylkill Fishing Club. It was established in 1732. Yeah.
The club remains today the oldest continuously operating social club in the English-speaking world. The club's historians have kept one of the most complete sets of records of any social organization in history. Reading the roster of the club's members in the years leading up to the Revolutionary War, it is a virtual who's who of the leaders of the Patriots' cause. George Washington, who was an avid angler and was known to carry a coarse fishing kit with him into battle. Benjamin Franklin, William Penn, William Bradford, the Marquis de Lafayette, and Patrick Henry, who coined the battle cry, "Give me liberty or give me death." We're all members of the club.
Yeah, it's the whole series, Dave, was basically kind of timelined parallel with American history. You know, so once we got across the pond and the first colonists started to settle in the Americas, the film sort of follows the American timeline. You know, through the Revolutionary War, into the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad, connecting the East and the West Coast, and then just how fishing evolved. I mean, this is 100-year-old footage, and these guys are fishing the same exact way that we're fishing today for the big bass. I mean, it's amazing. Anyway, thanks, man. All I can say is thanks for having me on. I'm speechless.
No, thank you. Hey, real quick, Elliot, let's take a break. Let's show him this Deckhand sports bag. I want to show it to Michael and let him check it out. Take a breath for a minute, because we're going deep into this. But take a look at this kill bag real quick, Michael. Watch this.
Own personal RSW.
Hey, what did you think of that?
No,
Look at
that's so cool.
the way that he put those slats in the bottom to
Yep.
keep the fish out of the water. Look at that.
I know.
Isn't that incredible?
It's a personalized RSW system. I mean, the product that you get out of that bag, when you refrigerate your fish like that being caught, it's night and day. There's no comparison to a properly cared for and taken care of fish like in a bag like this, as opposed to, you know, just leaving it on the deck or putting it in a gunny sack or dropping it into a fish hold or something. This is given the technology that Timmy Ekstrom and the guys down there in San Diego created on the sport boats when they came up with the RSW system, which is the refrigerated salt water. Instead of freezing this fish or putting them down in below freezing conditions, they came out like chunks of ice. Now they're coming out like sushi grade. And you're going to be able to do the same thing here with these bags on your own personal boat.
Right. And then he's gone so far above and beyond, because you know how it is. Every boat you go on is totally different. He got 1 million tie downs all over that boat,
Yep.
all over that bag for your boat. Then the zipper system and the way that it's shaped like an envelope, you can literally unzip it while you're holding your Dorado in your hand,
And
throw
drop
it in there and zip it back up with one hand. That's never been done before. He's gone everywhere you could possibly go to make this the best kill bag possible, gang. So check out Deckhand Sports. He's got a ton of different products from water bottles to backpacks to kill bags.
How big is that bag with the shark in it, or with the swordie in it? That's huge.
Yeah, they got the swordfish bags. They got the
Nice
big
real
bags. 91. Dave's watching right now. I think 91 inches the big one. I'm not positive.
Beautiful bag. I wouldn't personally. I wouldn't fish today without one.
Right. They're silly. When we were kids, no one cared about taking care of the fish. Now it's the number one thing we think about every time we go. Do we got enough ice?
Yep.
We got a big enough kill bag. Do we got enough ice? Those things, we never thought of that.
No.
One thing I wanted to talk to you about before we jump back into your movie, people don't understand. You and I are old school. We stop for a minute and think, gang, nobody, and I mean nobody, drank water until the 90s. We didn't drink a drop of water. We worked on the ocean every single day. We were covered in salt. We were in the sun. There wasn't a drop of water on any of the boats I ran. We didn't have a drop of frickin' water.
It was all beer and soda.
That's it.
Yeah.
There was no water. Think about that. When you're watching these videos with Michael, these guys doing what they're doing, there's no water, gang. Think about this. There's no water. No one drank water. That was ridiculous. Why would you waste space in your body for water?
That's pretty true.
It's crazy. Now we don't leave the house without 5 bottles of water and some water in our car.
Cases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy. So what are we watching here?
This is Big Bass Dreams, and this is Oliver catching a 17-pounder on his own, and then we laced it in with some early footage from the 1900s, just kind of comparing, setting the hook, fighting the fish, dropping down, netting them, and then in this case, gratefully, he releases 99% of his fish, and he releases all his big brood stock. So David's really helped or led the way. Oliver has with the catch and release on his.
Yeah, it's like David hasn't. Don't say I have.
Yeah, you're gonna flay a tarpon.
Right, I want to so bad.
Don't you dare!
I think that'd be great. The part about part 1, when you talk about that, what do we got here?
James Alexander Henshaw was the writer of the first real book on fishing that was published on the sport. There was another one, I can't remember her name, wrote the first book on fishing in the 1600s, but Henshaw was really considered the godfather of bass fishing. He was the first guy to really take bass fishing up and prior to Henshaw's book, most people thought bass were just a trash fish. They were considered a coarse fish. Trout were the premier species, and steelhead and salmon, but bass were just grouped in with sunnies and other fish. And Henshaw really brought bass to the forefront and introduced it as a sport fish. And look at it where it is today. It's the most popular sport fish in the world. So bass fishing is just an amazing sport. What they've done over there at BASS and Major League Fishing, and Kevin Van Dam retired this year, and it's just Ray Scott. The story about Ray Scott, if you're a bass fisherman, we've got original, never before seen footage of an interview with Ray Scott talking about how he came up with the idea to even start BASS, and then what it took to get it started, which is just an amazing story. That's Henshaw's book here. And then that's the first Kentucky reel. So first some of the first wooden jigs, and there's Ray Scott there, and his story and the evolution of bass is phenomenal. It's just phenomenal. Ken Duke is an editor and publisher of I forget the name of his company. I apologize, Ken. But he did the interview with Ray Scott, and it's just what a gift. What a gift to be able to have that now in a format that would be preserved forever.
And how did you go about getting all this footage of all? Because some of the stuff you have, I don't even know where you could have got it from. It's so old. It had to be so brittle. How did you do that? Well,
I started, you can see from the office, I love collecting old fishing memorabilia and rods and reels and tackle, old jigs, anything I can get my hands on that's historical. I've been going to swap meets and garage sales for 30 or 40 years. Just, my wife and I like to do it on the side, weekends, Sunday mornings. San Diego's got a great swap meet. Long Beach Memorial Coliseum's got a great swap meet. Anyway, anytime I'd see an old box with jigs in it or a rod and reel, I just buy it. So I bought everything I possibly could. And anytime I found an old fishing film, I'd buy it in an old case, an old rusted case. And so this is phenomenal footage right here on the making of the candy bar lures. So anyway, I collected all these old films for years, and I had some original 35 millimeter films that were in big 35 millimeter cans that were rusted shut that were from Zane Grey. And it has Zane Grey catching the first 1,000-pound fish ever taken on a rod and reel. We've got that footage. Him and Captain Mitchell fishing in Tahiti in New Zealand. So the first goal of this project was to get all that historical footage digitized and preserved, because celluloid will dry up. It's an archaic form of filmmaking. Anyway, we took all this footage up to Los Angeles, a company called DC Creative, and had them digitize this historical footage frame by frame. And so we've got probably 40,000 feet of historical black and white footage dating back over 100 years, a lot of it which has never been seen before. And we were able to digitize all that and incorporate it into the film. And then once, like I said, once we got rolling, the International Game Fish Association, they just said, listen, Michael, our vaults are open to you. Anything in our vaults, you're welcome to use. And AFTCO has done the same thing. There's Bill Shedd right there. AFTCO's opened up their vaults. Daiwa, just Trout Unlimited, Bonefish Tarpon and Trust, the Tuna Club, just San Diego Maritime Museum, Balboa Anglers, just everybody that's heard about this. We reach out to an individual and says, hey, by the way, we saw your clip on YouTube. Is it a possibility that we could use this in the film? And they get back to us, and 99 out of 100 of them said, God, please do whatever you need. So when you see the credits, I think we have over 1,200 people that are listed in the credits as having provided additional footage and photographs and have been appearing in the film. So it's truly been a communitive effort from within the sport fishing community to make this happen. And I just feel so grateful that so many people have wanted to help make this possible. Yeah, you can scroll through that stuff just goes on forever. So the credits, yeah, I mean, Bill DePriest, Pacific Coast Sport Fishing, it just goes on and on and on. Frank Usetti down at H&M. I mean, Excel, everywhere I look, there's names that ring a bell. Davies Locker, Dana Wharf Sport Fishing, the Hansen family. Come on, it's endless.
No, it is definitely, like I said in the very beginning of this interview with Michael, it is chronologically portraying my life, my family's life, and then anybody that's been in this industry for any amount of time. You're going to get so much out of this, because for first time ever, this is really a picture into our lives and what our lives have been like, and the evolution of this industry. The whole part where Michael splices the old films in with the new, it's incredible the way you whatever that lady was telling you about, that you couldn't do it, she'd never seen any of your movies before. Because
no, she hadn't, and we went to battle several times over it. But I think with her input, we were really able to help massage and get the chronological things in order. I just, I jump all over the board. I'm watching, I'm editing, I'm thinking, okay, I'm bored. We need some fish porn in here. We need to go to some music and get some rock and roll and energy going. So I would just jump all over the board, and she really, and Tammy especially, Tammy really helped me kind of rein in my my right hemisphere, if you will, and keep things in order that makes sense as a viewer. Because we all don't fish. This film really, I think, is going to, like you said, kids are going to love it, and people that have never fished can show it to their kids. And I think that's going to really help introduce children to the sport, because it's going to get them excited about it. And if we don't get the kids involved at an early age, it's very difficult to introduce fishing as you get older in life. So, my fondest memories, my earliest memories, like you, Dave, it's with my dad when I think I was 4 years old, and he hooked a big bass, and I swore to God I thought he'd hooked a rock. I go, Dad, you're caught on the bottom. That's a rock. And he goes, that's not a rock. Look at the rod. It's swimming. So we have memories. We all have memories of our earliest days of fishing. And please, if there's a message within this film, it's introduce your kids to fishing, support the sport within the youth, and together I think we have a chance of helping to save it as we move forward. We're facing some ginormous challenges, like Glenn Hughes pointed out last week. There are some extremists in this country, obviously, try to assassinate President Trump, but there are some environmental extremists that want to eliminate, they want to abolish fishing, period. They think any interaction with nature should be from an observation point only. And so there's some extremists that have millions, hundreds of millions of dollars behind them and wanting to eliminate the sport entirely. So hopefully this film will educate our lawmakers and the general public that you cannot hurt a fishery with a rod, a reel, and a piece of string. You can't do it. I don't care how good a fisherman you are. You cannot hurt a fishery with a rod, reel, and a piece of string. But you start putting tens of thousands of miles of long lines and high streams, drift nets and gill nets and long lines, you're gonna slaughter the oceans. If we slaughter the oceans, we're gonna kill the planet. So, to try to eliminate sport fishing is just a huge mistake. So, American Sport Fishing, they're the California Conservation Association, the Coastal Conservation Association, anybody that you're affiliated with. What happens upstream happens downstream. So, you're at the headwaters up in Washington or somewhere, and that Klamath River is going all the way down into Oregon. What happens on that river is going to affect everybody. So just get involved. Put $1 or $10 or send ASA a gift. It's just so important that the problem I've seen, Dave, and you have it, know it, you've been in it. I call it wheelhouse mentality, where when you're running a boat, that boat is all consuming. If you're running a sport boat or a yacht or a charter service, I don't care if you're doing a flats boat or if you're running the XL, that boat is all consuming. And it's a wheelhouse mentality. And we've got to get outside of our wheelhouse mentality as a group of anglers and realize that we need to show strength and unity. And part of what this film is about and what we're doing with the release that we're doing right now through the app is that we've talked to the president of Lionsgate, the head of Netflix. They all say, hey, it's the show looks good, but is there an audience for it? And I'm going, yeah, there's 50 million people in the United States that buy a license.
This is the history of sport fishing. Man has fished since the beginning.
Yeah.
So anyway, these network executives, bless their hearts, most of them, other than Jim Packer, who loves to fish, they've never been out in the water in their lives, and they're saying we don't see if there's a market here. Is there an audience to watch something like this? Would there be enough people out there that would want to watch a documentary on fishing? And so part of what we're doing with this, buy the app now, become a member, is we're proving to them that yes, we are an association of individuals that love to fish. Most of us fish on our own or with a friend or two, but as a group, we're a powerful force to be reckoned with. And our voices need to be heard across the board, not only regionally, but in Washington. And I think by signing up and subscribing, we're going to be able to go back in 6 months to these networks and say, check this out. We've got 1 million people that have subscribed to this. You think it might be something you'd want to put up on the network and let the world watch? And if not, we'll do it on our own, just like you and I are doing right now, David.
Absolutely. There's a great interview Elliot just had up there with Frank Lepresti talking about how America wants us to stop fishing. If you guys look at the Bill of Rights, the Constitution to the United States of America, fishing is part of our constitutional right in the United States. Our forefathers put that in there for a reason. They put it in there because it's so important to the fabric. Go ahead.
Yeah, play that, Elliot.
To see no fishing whatsoever anywhere in the United States, to see fishing abolished. I pray to God it doesn't happen.
Responsible stewardship of our aquatic ecosystem.
Yeah, it's Bill Shedd. Bill Shedd does an interview on the last chapter 12, and he talks about the threats of. He said the greatest threat that's threatening sport fishing right now is the extreme environmentalist, because they're behind the scenes. They've got millions of dollars. They don't make a lot of noise. They just hire whoever the lobbyists are to convince our legislators and our lawmakers that we're harming the sport by fishing with a rod and a reel. And there's millions of dollars behind that. And that bus has left the station. And if we don't rally as a community in every way that we possibly can, and whatever floats your boat, if it's if it's Trout Unlimited, or if it's Bonefish Tarpon and Trust, or if it's the California Coastal Association, whoever you feel compassionate about or feel like can do a good job for you, help support them with your dollars and your vote. And make sure that the legislators of this country realize, like David just said, that the sport of fishing is inherent. It's woven itself into the very fabric of America's soul. And even if you don't fish, it's a part of our culture. It's a part of our heritage. And to think that someone or a group of extremists could take that away from us, it's mind-boggling. But trust me, it's in process. They're trying to abolish the sport. Bless their hearts. They're trying to do right for the oceans. They're trying to do right for the rivers and the lakes and streams, but they're completely misguided. And there's no scientific data to support banning sport fishing.
And another thing, because you mentioned a couple things about commercial fishing, but the United States of America, see, I had Tommy Gomes on the show 3 times, and I had Reed the fishmonger and Luke McFadden, and these guys have their finger on the pulse. The United States of America eats more seafood than any other country in the world. We eat more seafood than any other country in the world, but we're not allowed to eat our seafood that we catch in the United States of America. Why? Because the United States of America is the most regulated country in the world as far as fishing.
Absolutely.
We're not affecting the population of the fish in the ocean with our commercial fishermen, and we're not affecting the population of the fish in the ocean with our rod and reel fishermen, which is something that the world needs to understand. The United States of America is the most regulated country in the world as far as fishing goes. And we're not raping the ocean. We may have back in the old day. We don't do that anymore. But tomorrow when you go to Walmart or don't use the name, big box stores, you're going to see a plethora of fish. None of those fish are from the United States of America, gang. You're not buying United States sustainable caught fish. So when you are, and the environmentalists are the worst in this whole thing, Michael, because they talk out of this side of their face, and then straight ahead, they're at Costco buying foreign caught fish that are caught unsustainable.
Right.
So we are under attack, like Frank Lepresti said, Michael said. I say every day on this show, I tell you to get involved with CCA, get involved and go to the meetings and understand what you guys are talking about. Because when someone just throws out the word, oh, there's a purse seiner, there goes all the tuna. Wouldn't that be great if that was the fact, that those guys from San Pedro with their 18 boats that barely run because they don't make any money are actually devastating the tuna population in Southern California? You guys are so wrong. It's not what happens. You're totally wrong. And we're all in this together. We need the commercial guys on our side, and we need to be on the commercial guys' side, or we're all going to wake up tomorrow and we're not going to get to go fishing. And all we're going to have is the history of sport fishing, and we're not going to get to go, and that's going to suck.
Well, you made such a great point there, David, and that our commercial fisheries in this country, in the United States, are the most regulated commercial fishing, most commercially regulated fishing industry in the world. Our guys over the last couple of decades have realized the harmful effects of unregulated, unsustainable commercial methods, and they've changed that. So our commercial fishery within the United States is a sustainable, maintainable, positive source of seafood. The problem is the unregulated nations, the rogue nations. I got a chapter. There's a scene coming up here where they're selling. Are you ready for this? They're selling 10 million metric tons of bluefin every day in Japan, and they sell 10 million metric tons of bluefin in 30 minutes, 5 days a week. Metric tons. You can't sustain a fishery with that. So, and these are all coming in from unregulated countries around the world. So it's just, and we need to take control of our sport and make sure that they don't try to take it away from us.
Right, and you can't lump us in with foreign countries, gang. You can't. No. When you show these videos of these giant dragger boats, right, that's not us.
Nope, it's not. So
And when you guys get mad at the commercial fishermen, you're basically pointing your fingers at us, the sport, because they don't look, the environmentalists don't look at it commercial and sport. They just look at it as fishing. So be careful the words you use as you go out there from this point forward. Be on the United States of America's side, gang, period. There is a group right now in Washington that the last thing they want to do is do anything to help the American people. So when Michael said it, when you go to the polls to vote, remember the mess we're in today was caused by your vote. So don't vote for the letter anymore. Start to vote with the process, what's going on. Start to vote with your heart. Look at what's going on. Forget about what your mom and dad told you, that the D word is good and the R word is bad. You got to forget about all that. It's time. We're at a point where we got to remove head from rectum, and we got to start voting for effect instead of for the letter. The letter doesn't help you anymore. It's not.
Absolutely. Look at the issues. Look at the issues that we're dealing with, and let your vote be heard. That's it. And we've got to take this country back. Period. And if we don't, we're not only going to lose this. We're not only going to lose our ability to go fishing. We're going to lose a whole lot more than that. So it's probably one of the most critical times in American history. And your vote has to count. So get up off the couch and mail in your vote.
Thank you.
Make a difference.
I couldn't hit the word. Vote for policy instead of the letter.
Vote for policy as opposed to self-profits.
The letter. Everybody just, I'm a D, so I'm going to vote for the D. The D is going to kill us. The D is going to kill us. Yep. If that's the policies you're voting for, gang, then understand
you're not an outdoorsman.
In a few years when you can't go fishing, it's over.
Yep. You won't be able to take your kid
so,
fishing.
One of our members, Don, he sent a message in on my phone, Mike. He wants to know, did you plan for Dave to open the first chapter, or was that decided later? Not going to tease Dave for being so emotional, because we all know his passion about fishing, but that's quite a hook, so to speak.
That was not planned at all. That was completely spontaneous. It was completely organic. I had no idea Dave was going to get that emotional, but once he did, and we looked at it, I just went, oh my God, this. He captures in those couple of minutes what the essence of the sport is all about and what it means to us as an individual. And he was willing, you, David, were willing to express those feelings openly, honestly, to the point where you couldn't talk. And to me, I've had some people say, what the hell are you opening a film for? It's this old man crying. And it's like, if you watch it and you listen to it, you'll understand it. So it was thank you for that gift. And part of that came about because we were talking to Kevin Costner's management team about having Kevin do an opening for the season or for the series about what fishing means to him. And it's still a possibility, but David just stepped up and did it. So there you go, Kevin. David Hansen just took your spot.
Wow, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
That's a big deal. So how can people find this movie? How can they find this docuseries? Where can they look for? What do they got to do? How do they do it? I know we'll throw the QR code up, but we got a lot of old people.
Really simple. You just go to thehistoryofsportfishing.com. Thehistoryofsportfishing.com. And once you're there, you can see the trailers, you can see the promos, you can see all the chapters, descriptions, you get the highlights of the VIP package, and then we have different membership options. You can purchase an episode, you can buy the 12-pack bundle, or you can buy the $75 VIP package. And that'll give you unlimited streaming on any device, anytime, anywhere. And you can cast from your phone directly to your big screen TV, or if you've got a smart TV, you can just type in thehistoryofsportfishing.com on your smart TV, and it'll load up for you. So, yeah, those are some of the bonus packages that are coming up. Tribute to Tuna, Midway when we were first back there, the full Zane Gray story, Marlin off the rocks, Jig Chucker's Ball, Big Boat, Big Fish, all the classics. Some of the best stuff that we'd ever done in 30 years are now going to be a part of this package. So Frank Lopresti's The Ultimate Challenge, it's just Tom Rogers releases 1,000-pound marlin at the Great Barrier Reef, fishing the foam. It's a phenomenal lineup of material, and it's like I said, it's great entertainment for the entire family.
Yeah, there's nobody that's going to be restricted from watching this. It's like I said earlier, it's like when we were kids with our family and we'd sit down, and this is one of those movies you can sit down with your family. There's not a lot of that going on anymore. You sit
No,
down
in fact, I got to interrupt you, David. There's this phenomenal shot of Zane Grey on his fisherman arriving in Tahiti, and the native girls are paddling out in their dugout canoes, and they're all topless. And there's just these beautiful Tahitian women paddling up to the boat. And we're talking about what a friendly island Tahiti was. I thought it fit perfectly. And Tammy goes, "You got to take the breast.
Put that in there. Come on.
Tits out of there. You can't show tits on a family show." So we went back and forth, and I said, "It's historical." And she goes, "I don't care." So,
That's right.
but she's been my moral compass, if you will, on this thing, and made sure that we made it 100%, PG rated family viewing and entertainment.
And since the two of us are together right now, we're going to go off a topic for a minute. I want to do something. I want to touch somebody right now, Michael, the guy that put this together for you and me, the guy that's put our lives together. We're a couple of old men, and we shouldn't be doing this right now. This is crazy time for both of us, but I'm going to get emotional because this human being has absolutely 1,000% changed my life in the most positive way possible. Elliot Andrews.
Elliot,
it doesn't get any better.
I can't thank you enough, sir. I would not be here. Dave and I, both of us, neither of us would be here today where we are and what we're doing without you.
It's an absolute life-changing event. You and I, Michael, we talk about it offline a lot. We owe all glory to Elliot. I thank you so much, Elliot, for everything you've done for Kelly and I. And I'm so glad that I was able to turn you on to him, Michael.
Oh, David, I'm so grateful. And Elliot, I've never worked with someone with the intelligence, the insight, the vision, and the technical skills that you have in this arena. You have transformed my life. You have transformed this film. Originally, I was going to, it was a Netflix, National Geographic, HBO, Lionsgate special. I never thought I'd be marketing a product in my whole life. And you've stepped up and allowed to now make this available to the entire world without having to go through the process of having an executive decide whether or not it's worthy of putting on their network. There's a great clip coming up in chapter 9 when we interview Bill Dance, and he talks about trying to start his TV show and how Bill Dance actually started his first TV show and what he had to go through talking to the networks. And he goes, "I want to start this local TV show." "A what?" "A local fishing show." "What's that?" And the networks, the executives don't have a clue. So thank you, Elliot, for presenting this project and this product in such a way that the entire universe can have access to it with a couple of clicks.
Well, I just want to say that you're both very, very welcome. And I look forward to the journey ahead with both of you. Yeah. I really do. It means a lot to me, and you both mean a lot to me as well. So thank you for your kind words, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. What I want to tell the world is, and Michael feels the same way because we had an hour-long conversation before this show, but we're just a couple of old fishermen guys. We love what we do. We get to do what we love. Michael put together one of the bitchinest TV shows. I used to love watching it all the time. Pray to God that I would get to be on it one day. But you know what you've taught us both, Elliot, is that somebody wants to listen to what we have to say. And we didn't know how to get in front of people. We didn't know. And you made it so easy. And we can call. The really cool thing about it, gang, is Michael or I can call Elliot, and we don't want to bug him, but we'll say, "Hey, if you have a couple of seconds, could you help me?" Bam! Before we get off the phone, it's already done.
Yeah. If there's a fix and you call Elliot before the conversation's even over, it's fixed. There's no finger pointing. There's no excuses. He just jumps in. He gets the job done like no one I've ever worked with before. So Thank you, Elliot. And thank you for making this available to the world for both Dave and I. And you're doing a huge. I may be overstating this, but as our oceans go, so does the planet. And if we don't heal our oceans, if we don't take care of our waters, if we don't take care of the headwaters of our streams and our lakes and our rivers, we're going to lose the planet. So honestly, fishermen for 200 years have been the stewards of our fisheries. And we've been the first ones to say, hey, there's a possible problem here. I'm not catching as many tarpon as I caught a few years ago. Maybe we should stop hanging them all up and taking pictures of them and then feeding them to the sharks. Why don't we start releasing this? And this was back in the early 1900s. So anglers have been on the water and have seen it firsthand and have done more than any other single group, not only emotionally and spiritually, but financially, in helping to preserve and secure our fisheries for future generations and make sure that we have clean waters, that we have a clean planet, that we have a healthy planet, that we have a healthy nation to live and work and prosper in.
Yeah, and United States of America is the number one.
No question.
Nobody takes care of our stuff better than we do, gang. But you got to let us take care of it. You got to let us take care of it because we're looking at it. We're on the water. Fishermen, we're on the water every single day. We're seeing what's going on. Please listen to what we're telling you. Stop just doing this with your pen. When you sit down and you just sign something with your pen without any research, that's not fair to any of us. It's not fair to the fish. You're not doing them a big favor by just signing a piece of paper because we've already seen the devastation that's been caused in the MLPs in Laguna and up and down the California coast. When they closed those areas and stopped the urchin divers from harvesting the sea urchin from the ocean, that was the end of the beautiful kelp beds that grew so thick off of Laguna Beach and off of Central California. When you closed all those areas with the swipe of your pen, you did it with no knowledge and you didn't know what you were doing. Now they're backed up. And
no scientific data to support those decisions.
And I talked to Wayne Cota when we were in Florida together, and now they're trying to get a pass for the commercial urchin divers to come back into these MLP areas and start working commercially fishing. And Wayne's like, well, no, wait, no, you don't get both ways. You shut us down and you saw the devastation that you caused with no science. And now you want to back it up, but you don't want us to go in there and catch a bass.
Right.
But you want the commercial guy to go get the urchins so that the kelp will grow. We already told you what was going to happen, but nobody listens.
No, it's management through politics instead of scientific data. And hopefully this, like we said, let your voice be heard with your vote, and let your people know how much you love the fish and how important it is, and the balance of what the ecosystem really needs within the sport.
And the reason we're talking about this part of it, gang, is because this movie touches on so many aspects of our life every day. Not only fishermen, but the people around us, the people that make a living selling us the soda pop and a bag of ice and the gasoline and the suntan lotion or the sunscreen lotion. Everybody's in play, not just us as fishermen. It's Glenn Hughes showed me some numbers of the massive amount of revenue that's created in the United States of America every year by the sport fishermen. The mind-numbing amount of taxable money that's being spent by us fishermen has a massive impact on the United States of America. And I think our forefathers knew that when we didn't have a clue, when they wrote it into the Constitution and said that Americans will have the right to fish. And I saw a video the other day, some environmental little girl with green hair and Birkenstocks and hairy armpits saying that it's not your right, it's a privilege to fish. Well, you may want to read the Constitution again, young lady. It was written with guys that knew and they love to fish. A couple of people on our comments are saying they didn't even know our forefathers fished. Yeah, that's what this movie tells you. So much cool shit.
They're the guys that wrote the Constitution. They're the guys that wrote the Declaration of Independence. They were fishermen. They met in a fishing club. They met in a club called the Schuylkill Fishing Club to write the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence for this country. And they all fished. it's an inherent right. It's woven into the fabric of our souls, and we just can't let it be taken away from us. So somebody mentioned on one of your comments about Steve Morris.
Yes.
Steve Morris is a phenomenal, one of the most incredible people I've ever met, and he does a beautiful introduction about the evolution of big game fishing at Catalina. So he's definitely featured in this film throughout. So
before we leave, and I know you got a ton of work to do, Elliot, I'm going to go a few minutes over. Michael, tell everybody you're a member of the Avalon Tuna Club. There's so many people in the LA, San Diego area that don't even know that that's there. And that's like a big deal over there in Avalon. Just talk about it for a few minutes, please, because I know you were able to gather up a lot of the stuff from the museum on Catalina at the casino. You have a lot of that stuff right there in your garage. Just talk about it for a couple minutes before we log off.
Well, the Avalon Tuna Club was formed in 1898. Should have known that right off the top of my lips. 1898 on June 15th by Dr. Charles Frederick Holder, after he landed the first 173-pound bluefin tuna. It was 178. But there was Colonel Morehouse caught a big fish a couple years before, a big tuna that was 100 pounds. But when Frederick Holder caught his big I'm embarrassed for not knowing the weight, but anyway, 170-some pound bluefin. That was the first big bluefin ever captured on rod and reel. And then 2 weeks later, he formed the Avalon Tuna Club. And it was based on fair fishing practices, ethical ways to catch a fish. Because at the time, you could go down on the beach in Avalon and take a treble hook and a chain and just throw it out there and snag all the yellowtail and white sea bass you want with a big treble gannion. I mean, the fish were so thick, you just throw a gannion out there and pull them in, and you snag them and catch all the fish you want. So the Tuna Club was formed with the idea of ethical angling practices, and that if you're going to call yourself a sport fisherman, pick the rod up off the rail, get rid of the electric reel, and fight that fish one-on-one. Stand up and fight like a man. And that was really the basis for the Avalon Tuna Club, was the ethical practices of sport fishing. And if you want to harvest, no problem. Drop that round on the rail and put that tuna in the sack and take her home. But if you're going to just call yourself a recreational sport fisherman, give yourself the joy of capturing a fish using ethical methods. I mean, if harvest isn't the key, if that's not the reason you're out there is for the harvest, then enjoy the sport. Challenge yourself. The antique tackle, fishing on old vintage wooden rods and reels, and it's just an amazing experience to try to catch a fish the way they caught them 100 years ago. So the Tuna Club is historically significant. It's a phenomenal organization of individuals. The lineup of people that have been members throughout history is pretty staggering. In the Avalon Museum, Catalina Island Museum has been instrumental in helping this project get off the ground. Chase Offield and the Offield Foundation, his dad Packy, Chase and Colin have been phenomenal supporters behind the scenes, like Tom Flager and the scripts hubs. I mean, their money gets. I think, I'm not sure, but I think Chase bought out the last longliners, or he bought out the last permits in the state of unregulated or unsustainable commercial techniques. So he bought those permits so they can use sustainable techniques now, as opposed to some of the stuff they were using. So Tuna Club's a blessing. The Balboa Angling Club, the San Diego Angling Club, every group of guys that love to fish, the LA Tuna Club, we're a bunch of individuals that rarely get together and commune, because we like our time alone on the water, but we need to be together as a unit as we move forward fighting some of these battles that we're facing, not only as a sport, but as a planet and as a country.
Yes, sir. And Glenn Hughes summed it up perfect on our interview a couple of weeks ago when we had Glenn on here. Gang, keep American fishing. Just type that in. Keep America Fishing. Donate to that because it's super important. Also, CCACalifornia.org.
$5 could change the course of sport fishing.
Because we're up against a lot of entities that want to stop us from fishing. Michael, I want to thank you so much for your time. The number one guy that took time out of his absolutely amazing schedule, Elliot Andrews, thank you for letting us go over a few minutes. I knew we would. Michael and I always have a lot to talk about. Thank you, Elliot, for your time. All of you that watched the show today, do me and Michael a big favor. Hit that like button on the bottom. Hit the share button. The share button right now is the most important button on your thing. Hit the share button because there's got a lot of people in your sphere of influence that would love to hear what we just talked about or love to even know that this show exists. And you can watch Michael's History of Sport Fishing. It's incredible. Grab the QR code. Go to the historyofsportfishing.com. If you can't see the QR code, download this film and watch it. You'll be blown away how good Mike put this whole thing together. You will be blown away when he merges the old videos with the new. I'm going to talk about that a lot because that lady said you couldn't do it. Well, you did a hell of a job.
Well, and thank you for your support and become a part of the history. Become a part of the history of sport fishing by showing your support. You know, let your voice be heard. The numbers are going to make a difference.
Big time. And understand, this is Michael. He's right here. This is his movie. This money that you're going to spend on this is going to Michael. So it's not going to some big production company, Netflix, some streaming platform. It's going to Michael, folks.
I forgot to mention that a substantial percentage of every purchase is being donated back to conservational efforts. So not gross profit, gross sales. So anybody can skew their profits, but every dime of gross sales, a percentage of that is going back into conservation. So giving back a little bit.
And that's about as real as it gets, gang. And this is about as real as it can be. Now you know the producer, director, narrator of the show, History of Sport Fishing. Thank you, Michael, for being a part of the show today. Everybody, thanks for watching. It's Friday, so you know what that means. Turn off the news. They're all lying to you. Wait. I will be back on Monday. I'll tell you truth every day. Don't listen to the baloney out there. They're all lying. Mexico's super safe no matter what they tell you. And everything's going to be okay. It's not the end of the world. Just watch History of Sport Fishing and you'll see that. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you on